like I said before, thank you so much for joining this Zoom meeting. And I will post a slideshow that I'm going to put on the screen right now. So if you miss anything or if you have any questions, you can type those in the chat. I'll do my best to answer those questions tonight. But I know some of you have another meeting that starts either at 6 o'clock or starts at 6:30. So I won't try to take too much of your time. And this slideshow will be posted, so you'll be able to see that whenever we need to. So I'm going to share my screen now. All right, as you can see here, I'm Mr. Catone, and it is our Meet the Teacher night for 2020, 2021. Just a little bit about myself. I did attend IUP for my undergrad to get my teaching degree, and I received my master's degree in curriculum instruction from Gannon University. This is my 15th year teaching at Gateway, and I did spend the last 5 years at Cleveland Stewart teaching science and social studies. But previously, I taught a lot of the different grades: kindergarten for a year, first grade for 3 years, second grade for 4 years, and most of those were at Evergreen Elementary School. But then I did teach one other year at Ramsey. But this is just a picture of what the classroom looks like when your children go there. So the desks are spread apart, and I tried to get a picture there to show you how there's a blue sticker and a green sticker. So our cohort A kids sit at the desk with the green stickers, and our cohort B kids sit at the desk with the blue stickers. So the kids do not share desks or any materials as well. And they're spaced out even more than 6 feet, to be honest with you, in our classroom. So I just wanted to, because I know I'm a parent, I have a student that goes to University Park in second grade, and it helped me a little bit once I could see what the classroom setup looked like, and I knew how they were going to be spaced out. So I figured I'd just put this picture up there just so you could see what the classroom looks like. But this is where I want to get into my main expectations for the students. If you can see here, the daily expectations, the first thing is that every day, now it doesn't matter what time it is, because if you're working or if your child's at daycare, it may not be right at 9 o'clock in the morning, but they should be logging on to that Google Classroom every day to check their assignments. Also, when they are in school, I do need them to remember to bring their iPads and make sure they're charged. We do not have a lot of chargers for these iPads. If the kids want to bring their own chargers, that's fine. We can charge them in school. On top of that, their science and math books. Make sure they bring them back with them every day, because they're going to be coming home every day so they can do work on them. Just make sure they come back. So the two main things are that iPad and those paperback textbooks can come back, just so we can all stay on the same page. And if you see here, once the kids go into their Google Classroom, they have to check more than just one classroom. Like once you get into Google Classroom, you probably have noticed there's multiple classrooms in the Google Classroom for each child. They'll have their art, their music, their phys ed. Then they have a reading class for me, a science class for me, and they will have a math class for Mr. O'Reilly. So once they go in there, I would start with checking your math, reading, and science first, because the kids will get each of their special classes, that's phys ed, music, art, and library, when they're in person in school. So they'll get to meet in person with all their specialty teachers. Now they will post other assignments for them to do just while they're at home to keep them busy and to keep them learning the concepts, because it may be a few days in between before they can have their class again. I put on here for the kids to click on the classwork tab, because a lot of the times whenever you open up that Google Classroom and you would click on my science class, the first thing you're going to see is what's called the stream. Well, the assignments will post there, but it can get pretty confusing with all the different posts. So what I recommend to the kids, they go to classwork and it will show what work is due. But there's also an even easier way. If they click on their to-do list, it will list every assignment for all of their classes that are due that day. So if you want to remember the to-do list, it would be up in the right or the left-hand corner, and it'll drop down and have every assignment when it's due. It'll even show what assignments they're missing. So that may be a good tab for the kids to learn. And we'll continue to practice this in school. On another note, the kids have been working and they're phenomenal with this. When we do a Google form, the kids have now learned that once they finish their Google form, they click submit. But after they click submit, there's one more step. They have to go back on their iPads, and at the bottom, it'll say your work. And when they click on that your work, it'll have a little arrow, and it'll bring it up, and it'll say mark as done. The kids have to make sure they hit mark as done, because that sends me a message and allows me to grade it. Now, sometimes if they're doing a Google Doc, it may just say turn in. So I may send your son or daughter a message and say, hey, make sure you go in. I'm glad that you did your science work. Just remember to click turn in on the classwork page. And that way it'll send me a message saying that they turned it in and I can grade it. I already mentioned about the math and science book. So the next one, we'll get into science class. Again, the students are going to log into their Google Classrooms. Once they get into their Google Classrooms and open up their classwork tab, they'll see a heading that says Science Assignments. Underneath there will list all the science assignments that I've already posted and when they're due. They have to click on it. What I've been noticing is when the kids open up their assignments, they're not taking the time to read through the instructions completely. So just make sure if you're with them, just have them read the instructions. Now, Mr. O'Reilly and I have since scaled back the instructions so much so it's not so wordy. So it's more short and to the point of what we want the kids to do. But like I said before, the kids with their Google Forms, they're good with them now. And they'll mainly work through a Google form. Every once in a while, I will post a Google document. But until we get the kids more familiar with typing, I'm not going to assign Google documents yet until we can work on some typing skills with the kids using the iPads. But right now, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm just going to see if there's any questions. So does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, I can unmute us right now. If you have any questions about using the science books. So if you'd like to unmute and ask any questions, that's fine. Because the big difference between science and reading is going to be, in science, they're going to be doing work in a paperback textbook. Even when they're at home, they'll have to check their Google Classroom for the assignment, but then it'll probably instruct them to read pages like, for instance, we're going to be doing pages 14 through 18. So the kids are going to have to read through pages 14 through 18 for tomorrow and answer the questions as they go through. It doesn't look like there's any questions, so I'm going to share that slideshow again. Now, when we go into the Google Classroom, you're going to notice, and I've already talked to some of you, the kids are going to try, because I'll put a link on there so they can still access their science book digitally. Because the great thing about that is it will read those pages to the students. So my recommendation is to let the kids listen to it first. Go through the pages, read the paragraphs, go through the information. That way, maybe if they were stuck on a word, they'll hear how to sound out that word. Then the second time they go back and reread those pages, that's when they can answer the questions in the book. And some of you, if you tried the bike activity, the digital ebook will not let you drag the pieces to answer the question about the brake and the chain and the bike seat. So in the book, for instance, all you'll have to do is write the correct letter that describes what the pedals do or what the bike is used for, if that makes sense. The kids are real good with it. We've been practicing in school, so the kids understand how to work through that. Again, science is going to be different than reading, because in science, we're going to be using the textbook. But as I'm going to show you on the next slide, our science, we use textbooks a lot, but in reading, it's mainly going to be all online. And they've been reading, right now for reading class, we've been working on Porpoises in Peril. Now, they've only had to read pages 3 through 9, but if you notice when I assign that in that Google Classroom, it will take them right to that story. In the same way you can listen to it in science, you can also listen to this for reading. But the difference is when the kids have to answer comprehension questions or grammar questions or a writing assignment, they're going to see that as an attachment in the reading class. Underneath, it's going to say reading assignments on the topic. So make sure when you're doing that, that's where they're really going to have to practice with the Google Forms. Because a lot of my comprehension questions, even the writing assignments for right now, are going to be through the Google form. And I'm only asking on these first few writing assignments just to give 2 or 3 complete sentences. And that way, because what I've been noticing when the kids are doing their writing, I'm getting 1 and 2 word answers. So we want to start working with them on writing 2 or 3 sentences. Now I understand it's hard for them to type and this may be a little time consuming, but that's why you'll notice I only post like 1 question that they have to respond to in terms for writing. We'll start working more in class when I see them in person on the writing process and informational text and different things like that. So right now we just plan on taking things real slow to get the kids familiar with using the technology. And then as everyone gets comfortable with that technology, we'll start rolling out some other assignments and other activities. And as you can see here on the slide, we'll be focusing on reading comprehension, fluency, grammar, and written expression this year. As you've probably noticed, because they used it in 3rd grade last year, we're going to continue with the same series, the Ready Gen reading series. And it is a good series. You know, we'll be able to provide links and different things like that to other activities. And then the last thing for our reading class is to get them logging on to the Epic Reading for at least 15 to 30 minutes each day. Now, it's their choice if they want to do this on Saturday and Sunday, but for right now, it only has to be during the week of school. Any questions about the reading assignments? The reading assignments are going to be pretty laid out because it'll take you straight to the Pearson site and the Google Forms. The Google Forms are nice. The kids will get immediate feedback once they work on a Google form. If they miss a question, it'll give them feedback right away so they know which one they missed. And it'll give them the opportunity, not necessarily to redo the form, but to go back in the story and maybe reread and see what they didn't understand. Let's see, we have a question. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen right now and we'll answer this question. Okay, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, it's Billy Joe, Figo's mom. We tried to get on to Epic Reading after school hours, and it said that we couldn't sign in because it was not during school hours.
If you use your parent email, there's a way that all you have to do is add a parent email, and it will give you access.
Okay.
To Epic Reading, because that's why mainly because if you want to do that on the weekends, just click there in a parent email. As soon as you put your parent email in there, it'll give him access.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we're going to go back and I'll share the slideshow again. Now, the next thing is Wednesday Zoom student check-ins. So here is a list of when I will have my Zoom meetings. Now, if there's ever a problem because one of these times don't work for you, you can join one of the other meetings. I would try to join one of the Mr. Catone ones, not in the Mr. O'Reilly's, because we may be just a little bit different on what I was teaching with that class compared to the other class. But these are optional. This is simply just for me to check in with the kids and see if they have any questions, if they were having trouble with any assignments. Like if they come to school on Thursday and Friday, that Wednesday check-in is to make sure they did all of their work on Monday and Tuesday. You know, that's where I'll tell them, hey, I noticed you didn't finish this reading assignment. Can you get that finished before you come to school tomorrow? For my Monday, Tuesday group, it's going to be more of a review of what we just talked about and say, hey, remember on Thursday and Friday, I need you to complete these activities and make sure you click turn in. They're not going to be real long because I don't want to take too much of their time, but it is just a check-in, just to make sure that they're staying on track and that they're logging on to Google Classroom daily, and that they're getting their assignments done. And it's also a time for them to ask me questions if they're confused on anything. Then the last thing is from that 2:30 to 3:30 time here, those are my office hours. So anytime you have questions, don't think that it's only on Wednesdays that I'll respond to you. But I do ask that if you send me an email, give me 24 hours to get back to you. Our students have their specials at 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's when I get my break. So after 10 o'clock, I don't really have time to sit down at the computer and answer emails, but I'll try to get to you later in the evening or the next morning on my break. So just bear with me and try to give me that 24 hours there. Then the next thing is additional information. Right here, you'll notice there is a link for a Title I Parent Night that's scheduled for next Wednesday. If you'd like to attend that, the reading specialist will go through some of the different things we're doing at the school when it comes to the Title I reading program. But this bottom link here that you see very helpful, it really is. What this is a Google slideshow presentation that was put together. It's 77 slides long, but don't feel overwhelmed with that, because what it does is it walks you through step by step what each icon on the Google Classroom means and what function it serves. So it's something great if your child or you aren't real familiar with the Google Classroom. This will walk you through everything that you would need to know. But the one thing I do want to tell you within that Google Classroom is when the kids do their assignment, for the most part, the little tab is going to be a color, whether it's purple or green. Once they've turned the assignment in, it will turn gray. So if you ever want to check to see if your child is doing their assignments, open up the classwork, and if you see any tabs that are colored like purple, green, blue, you know they still have to do that assignment, or that they did it and just forgot to click turn in. Because a lot of the times the kids will do their work, but just forget that last step to click turn in or mark as done. But I would take a look at that, and that'll be really helpful to read through that. And then the next one, we wanted to let you guys know that there are free meals for everyone. Every meal at school are free, but they are also still doing the grab and go lunches. So if you want to stop up at any of these locations, you can still pick up the grab and go lunches daily. And then that's all I have for right now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but now's the time that if we want to unmute and you have any questions, I'm not going to answer individual student questions, but if there's any overall questions that you may have, now's a good time to ask. Or if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. You can send me an email, and I'm okay with that. No questions? I know it went kind of quick, but I wanted to make sure I got finished just so if you had another meeting at 6:30 to go to. Again, if you joined us late, I will be posting my Google Slides presentation to the students' classroom, but I will also be attaching it in an email on Skyward that I will send to all the parents, just so you have it. But I can get it onto the students' Google Classroom as soon as we're finished with this meeting, in case you want to go take a look at it. The email on Skyward I'll do tomorrow morning. But if there's no other questions, thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening to join me for this meeting. So
Thank you. Bye.
thank you guys. See you later.